What's up, guys? I got a wide angle lens on the camera, and why is that? Well, we're going to be talking about something that I haven't really talked too much about, which is Foley, specifically building your own Foley pits. So, a lot of people that are just getting started in audio posts, they end up cutting Foley in from a sound library. It's not really Foley at that point, it's just sound effects editing. But, more like detailed stuff like footsteps and maybe cloth movement and props. So all of that is fine. And if you're starting out and you don't have a good sounding room, or your space is really small, or you don't have a lot of stuff, then it's totally fine to just cut from a library. But you'll quickly find yourself constrained by your library and the lack of performance. And so if there's a really proper budget for your project, I always recommend hiring a Foley artist and Foley mixer, Foley recordist. They're usually a two or three person team. Two is pretty standard. And what they'll do is they will, if you cue the Foley for them, they will go through and record the cues that you've selected. Some of the teams will cue it themselves. If you say, "Hey, I want full coverage Foley," they'll go through and just completely cover every little incidental sound that needs to be recorded, which is great because then you don't have to worry about queuing it, and they just give you back either a shot Foley session or an edited Foley session, which is even better. There's tons of like outsourced Foley. Foley Walkers is one. Gosh, what's the other? There's a bunch of other ones in like the USSR, and I think there's a guy in Canada, and just a couple other places where it's not super cheap, but it's a little more affordable than hiring US talent. I prefer sticking with US talent because I'm in the US, and it's just a way to support people. So that being said, if you're watching this channel, there's a really good chance that you don't have $8,000 for Foley for your film. And so you'll get into a question of, do I record the Foley myself, or do I cut it from a library? If you have the time and patience and coordination, record the Foley yourself. It's going to have so much more character and depth to it than library sounds, and it's going to have the benefit of being completely unique to the production. So how do you do that? Well, you're going to have to look at the film and see what all kind of stuff you need. For footsteps, you're going to need different shoes and different surfaces. And then for props, you're going to need a wide range of props. Some of them you probably already have in your studio, like pencils, pens, paper, cloth. But you'll get really creative with like, how do I record gun Foley? I know a lot of Foley artists like to use scissor jacks, anything that's kind of like clanky, clicky metal stuff. As you go through stuff, you'll learn what works. But the reason I have a wide angle lens is I just built a very small wood Foley surface. It's not really a pit, it's actually a surface. So I wanted to show you guys how you can, with just like a hammer, nails, saw, and a couple pieces of scrap lumber from your wood pile, because every guy has a wood pile in his backyard, how you can make something that you can use for doing your own Foley to picture, which is great. So I'm going to go through any questions you have that's Foley centric. Go ahead and drop them, and I'll try to answer them. This will be a probably 30-minute stream, so we've got 26 minutes. I am like under the gun. I've got projects that I'm working on full time now, which is awesome, but it also kind of limits my time for streaming and videos. So I'm going to still try to do a stream every week for you guys. I owe you that, especially members. Oh, is there blue fringing? Oh no, do I have my, hold on, I might have my focus assist. turned on. Let me think how I can... No, it's not that. I might have to... I have a manual focus lens, so let me... Dang it, this is going to be tough for me to change. I can just go to the other camera. Yeah, sorry about that. I put a wide angle lens on which has focus peaking, so let me go back. Let me do my intro loop again, and I'll see if I can fix that on the camera. Okay, is that better? Sorry, I had peaking on. That is super my bad. I think the last time I used a manual focus lens was when I did this short, so I'm really sorry about that. Can you guys tell me if there's no more peaking? I don't see any more crazy magic halo around me. I mean, I could have just said it was my aura or whatever, but that should be better. That looks fine. So sorry about that. Technical stuff is not really, in spite of doing Pro Tools, it's not really my forte. So super sorry about that. Okay, just go through comments real quick. Great experience to record your own Foley, even if you mess it up. Yes, and the cool thing is you get into the character's mind. So even if you're not great at Foley, I just always recommend doing it yourself. And also, the end product is generally better because you're performing it. So, Paul, you say you're hungry? I would say grab some eggs from your chickens. Okay. I enjoyed the blue sparkles too. Anyways, show and tell time. All right. This is... I'm going to have to make sure I should have wired myself up with a lav. This is... I think... Yeah, that's going to show pretty good. This is a very quickly assembled wood floor. You can see it's a little bit dusty. These are old fence boards. I guess they're about 3/4 of an inch, a little less than 3/4 of an inch thick cedar boards. So not a lot of structure, but that's good because they move a little bit. So these are assembled on a frame that, flip it around, that is just a couple of 2x4s. You can see there's concrete, dry concrete on these 2x4s because I actually use them. I use this as a screed board for a patio that I poured in my backyard. So they're dirty, which is fine. But you want to use dry lumber because as the lumber dries, if it's fresh from like the lumber yard, it's going to shrink. And sometimes that's good, sometimes that's not so good. But what I wanted to do, you're going to see there's a dowel here and some paracord, very tight paracord, and an eye hook. Let me switch. I think I have this set up. All right, this is just a crappy webcam, so there we go. Okay, so I drilled an inch hole. Well, first of all, the frame is 2x4s. They're cut to make a frame with a little bit of, you can see this is not flush to the edge of this crappy fence board. It's actually cut in. That's to give it a little more support on the ends so that the board is supported closer to the middle. Then I've got a blocking board here which spans perpendicular to the actual floorboards. And the reason I did that is the folks at Boombox Post actually showed how they make what's called a squeak box, or a creak box, which is something you can manipulate to picture to make creaks and squeaks and kind of like wood tension sounds. I loved that video, but I wanted to combine that with my wood floor box so that it had the same resonance as the actual steps. So that, is going to be kind of what the bottom of this sounds like. But then you have a 1-inch wood dowel here. This is actually from one of my kids' garden toys that they broke the plastic part. So I was like, I'm just going to hack that off, drill a hole, and then I've got a piece of all thread. Let me go back to this view. Oops, not that one. There we go. A piece of all thread on top. This is just like a stud with no head to it. I think this was actually a head. No, yeah, this is all thread. I had a couple of studs for a carburetor on one of my Jeeps, but I sold that Jeep, so didn't need that anymore. Anyways, drilled a hole that fits that through there, and this is what the creak part of it sounds like. So the way this works is this eye bolt and the paracord here, the paracord wrapped around the dowel actually puts lateral tension on it and pulls this against these holes so that you have the pressurized friction. And a lot of the sound actually comes from the rope on the dowel. So you can experiment with different sizes of ropes. You can also add rosin, like from a bow, to the holes and to the rope to get the creak or squeak really intense. I just left this as is, and I'll throw some rosin on there if I need to, but it's not fastened on the bottom. It's just held in place by tension. So if I need to take this apart, I can. And then the all thread is kind of favoring, you know, this so that I can lay it flat. It's actually probably dangerous to do that, but I did that so that I have a handle to, you know, reef on it a little bit. And then in order to tighten it to get more friction out of it, you would need a screwdriver, or you could actually pull this all thread out and put it in the eye bolt and then twist that. Eventually you'll twist it so much these will break, so I do have a trucker's hitch on here for just like a little bit of adjustable tension. You could use wire or a ratchet strap too. So yeah, you could also use some, I forget what they're called, but they're actually made for tensioning like fence wire with like a little nut. I didn't want to spend any money on this. This cost me $0, so I just used stuff I had on hand. So the cool thing about it though is that the top of it, I can just walk on it. You know, I can have boots or whatever. The boards are a little loose on purpose. These are just galvanized roofing nails. They're only 1.5 inches, so they're kind of loose. You could do screws or something so the boards move around a little bit. And then the blocking board, it's not fastened to the blocking board. I wanted to get a little bit of movement. And these are tight. So over time, they'll end up maybe squeaking a little bit, but it's kind of smart to record the creaks and squeaks separate from the steps so that you can adjust the volume of them in the mix. It sounds a little different from the top. But maybe, so yeah, that's the show and tell part of it. I'll put this back down. So what I would do for to record Foley is, like, you know, cue it and make sure I have all the shoes and surfaces I need. Really just you kind of do one at a time. Like you do all wood steps and just run through all the wood stuff and then swap shoes and then get another pit. So a wood pit is probably the easiest to start with because usually wood floors are interiors. There's some scenes you'll find where they're not interiors, like maybe a deck or a dock or a wooden bridge maybe. But for the bread and butter indie films, if there's wood floors, it's generally going to be inside a building, inside a house or something, or a cabin. So start with that because interior footsteps if there's a little bit of room in the recording, it's totally fine. You don't have to worry about that. Once you get to exterior footsteps, then you start dealing with resonances, and you really need them to be clean. You need to get the mic far enough away where it sounds natural, but then the room starts to come into play. So you also run into issues with the resonance of the actual box and then whatever floor your studio has. This studio that I built, it has, I think the floor joists are 16-inch on center. They are did I do 2x8s or 2x6s? I don't know, but it's built over code. And it's super well insulated so that when I stomp, you guys probably won't be able to hear this too well, but really the only thing that resonates is like the desk and the stuff that is on the ground, like my computer. So I have a rug behind me where this couch is back here, and I can take some mass-loaded vinyl, little square mass-loaded vinyl, set it down under this box, and record Foley without any kind of like resonance from the floor of the studio, and hopefully without rattling too much stuff. If I start stomping around, might run into some like, yeah, instruments rattling or something like that. But exteriors like concrete, dirt, grass, what you'll find in a lot of Foley studios is they'll have a dirt pit that they throw the grass in and then take it out for when it's just regular dirt, because grass grows on top of dirt. And generally grass by itself doesn't sound great, so you kind of want to step on the grass and then the dirt underneath it to get a little bit of body to it. Otherwise it just sounds like crunchy, you know, it doesn't sound realistic. And generally grass isn't dry anyways. It's like, if it's alive, it's not totally crunchy. It's kind of thumpy and wet. So I think I'll build a dirt pit. I don't know. I like swinging a hammer when I'm not here, so it's kind of nice to sit out in the backyard and like cut wood and hammer stuff together. So maybe in the next couple weeks I'll do that. And then a concrete pit. If your studio has concrete floors, you can really just rip the carpet off, or if it's polished concrete floor, just use that surface right there. But what I would suggest doing for a concrete surface, and what I'll end up doing, is build a frame just like that. 2x4s, you know, make it like 24 inches by 24 inches, or if you're metric, whatever centimeters that is. And then grab you a bag of Quickcrete from the hardware store. It's going to cost you $5 to $10. Mix it up in a 5-gallon bucket. Make sure it's not too wet. Like, you'll have to use more water than the instructions say, but get it to where it's about the consistency of oatmeal. Pour it into the frame. Darby, well, tamp it first, then Darby it. Then once the cream is off the top, then you finish the top of the concrete. I would say probably do a broom finish, or if you just want it to be smooth, you know, trowel it and make sure it's smooth. I will probably do a beveled edge because I like working with concrete, so it'll look nice. And then what you can do is after it dries, and you'll have to water the concrete so it cures right, so it doesn't get crumbly. But after it dries, you can actually take the frame off and just have this huge paver that's going to weigh 50 to 65 pounds that is going to be solid. A huge mistake I see people do, which more power to them for actually trying to do Foley on a budget, but they will go to the hardware store and they'll buy these cinder block pavers. Cinder block. Cinder block is not, it doesn't sound like a concrete slab. Cinder block has a very hollow, cheap, thin sound to it, whereas a concrete slab is like just meaty. Like the sound just hits it and it stops and it sounds solid and heavy. And cinder block sounds very brittle because it's not actually concrete. It's cinder. It's like ash that's kind of combined with stuff to make these cheap, lightweight things. You need something heavy for concrete. So get a bag of concrete, mix it up, get some muscles on your frame, you know, pour it, finish it just like you would a tiny little slab, and then get some mass loaded vinyl or a piece of rug or something to put underneath it so that it doesn't scratch up your floor, and use that. I have considered on under my couch doing roll-out drawers for Foley, but Foley's messy, and I think what I'm going to do is just keep this stuff, keep the frames outside behind my studio, and if when I need them, I'll bring them in, and when I don't need them, they'll be outside weathering and becoming more and more real sounding. And also, it gives me a tiny bit of exercise versus just sitting or standing at my desk and, you know, making weird sounds. So I'm all about not doing things the easiest way, but doing things actually kind of the hardest way sometimes. Physically, that's good because it keeps your body in shape, but it also can just be better because you can actually build like bigger surfaces then. So yeah, so the main surfaces you're going to need: a dirt pit, a concrete pit, a wood surface. Those three will get you pretty far. You may need gravel, but gravel tends to be less common, and you can always throw gravel on top of your dirt pit and then take it back out. A lot of us working on out of independent studios or home studios, space is an issue, so less pits, but more, you know, more usefulness out of each pit, I think, is a good way to go. And what else can I tell you about building your own pits? Resonance, I talked a little bit about. It's mostly going to be an issue for your dirt pit. If you build a concrete pit where it's just really a giant paver, you're not going to have issues with that. But the dirt pit, if you do a deep pit like 6 or 8 inches with parallel walls, the sound is going to bounce back and forth. So you might want to miter the corners so that the wood actually reflects the sound up, or just do 2x4s and sweep your studio when you're done, or vacuum the studio, because you're going to make a huge mess when you're doing dirt Foley. It's going to get dust everywhere. It's one of the reasons I don't really like doing Foley in my studio, because it's one room. So yeah, let me just go through the comments real quick. Paul, I did check out your mix on Family Heirloom, so thank you for sending that. I think you're the only one who's uploaded a mix. So if any of you guys have downloaded that and done your own audio post work on it, I look forward to watching them. But we're talking about Foley here. Let's see. Yeah, ask some questions. I've still got 5 minutes before I start my union job for the day. I'm on a union show for like 10 weeks. It's awesome. Any of you guys who have a union in your market, try to get that union work, because it's so much nicer to not fight with indie producers and directors, and just be part of, like, you know, a bigger team. I like doing both. I like the freedom that comes with independent stuff, but the pay and benefits that come with the union productions is just, it's really tough to beat. I'm going to put my webcam back up here. I don't think we're going to look at that pit anymore. You guys get the gist of it. You don't need a lot of tools for that either, like hammer, nails, saw. Even a handsaw would probably work. How do you record your own, questions? Okay. Oh, microphones. Yeah, this is good. I'll just answer some of these questions and then I'll sign off of here. Can you do a video in the future about showing using the pit? Yes, I can do that. I just need some kind of video to use for that. Same question about mic placement. Yeah, you're going to need, in a smaller room, you'll have to be closer. In a bigger room, you can be further away. 416, good beginner boom mic for dialogue and potentially Foley recording. I don't like the 416. It's too spiky and bright for me, but if that's what you have and it's affordable, it's been used for a really long time, so that would be totally fine. I have a Sennheiser MKH60, and actually I use this Rode NT1 for a lot of Foley too. How big is your Foley library? It's huge. Do you prefer to record your own Foley? I do if there's time and I can do it well. Alexander says, do you use multi-mic and sum them to mono? I like to get more low with mics, better for bass sounds and such. I just use one mic. Really good, real Foley recordists and mixers use multiple mics, and they have all kinds of secrets about placement. So that's not me. I'm just a dialogue editor who kind of edits sound effects every once in a while and mixes. I used to mix full time. I used to supervise full time, but I'm basically a dialogue editor at this point. So the Foley to me is just like recording production sound. I use the most minimal mics possible and just keep it simple. But yeah, mixers also, Foley mixers will have a chain that they use for their Foley, an input chain, whether it's hardware or virtual, with EQ, compressor, limiter. Some of them use like subharmonic stuff too. So all that stuff is very black ops, secret type of stuff. It is just about 8:30, so I'm going to sign off of here. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the stream. Like I said, I'll try to do one a week, even while I'm in the busy season. So if you have any ideas, make sure you drop a comment. Anybody who is a channel member, I just can't thank you guys enough. Every video I do, I'm going to thank you. It's really you guys that are making me want to, even like last night, I worked till midnight. It's here. I slept till 6, got up, got the kids breakfast, and before I start my shift, I have to do this for you guys because you're supporting my channel, so I'm gonna support you guys in your career goals. So on that tip, give me ideas for videos, for streams. I'll try to keep Tuesdays at 8 kind of the time. So if you want to join, that's the time. I will upload the stream afterwards, and yeah, so other people can watch it. So thank you guys so much again. Have a great week, and yeah, I will see you guys